Swansea today. Anybody know Swansea? Yeah, it's a bit of a rough diamond, isn't it? Like, you know it's nice because it's got a library, and you know it's a bit rough because there's a sign in the library that says, "Shut the fuck up." That's where I'm from. So, well, it's not where I'm from, it's not where I was born. Anybody want to guess where I was born?
Brighton.
Not Brighton, I'm not gay. I wish I was though, because man, you know. No, I was born in Zimbabwe, and I was seeing this guy, like dating, not like hallucination. So I was seeing this guy, and he said to me, "Where were you born?" And I said, "Zimbabwe." And he goes, "Which part?" I was like, "All of me." Didn't come in like IKEA flat pack. Anyway, bless. So I'm driven here today from Swansea. As you can see, I've been doing comedy a couple of years now, and the hardest part about comedy for me is the standing up bit. It's a bit of a challenge. And they always put stairs on the way to the stage. What's with that? It's so mean. It really is. It's like, let's see if we can get her on the stage looking like she's just fallen off something. Anyway, made it today without injury. Doing well, I think I've peaked. It's fine, it's fine. And in a way, I'm sort of a triple threat now because I'm single again and women hate me, which is fair. Because I do have big boobs, let's face it, and I am funny, and I have a blue badge. It's fantastic. So I'll give you an update. I'm single because I'm a widow. I hope. If it's all gone to plan. I was actually, I mean, I am kidding. He's got more lives than a cat. I have really missed him, but I'm working on my game. One of these days. Actually, I was looking for a hitman, but I don't know how you get one. Anybody know how you book a hitman? Like, it's not like you put it on your dating profile, is it? Somebody special to take me out, and then take out my husband. Preferably with one shot. Yeah, it hasn't worked out. Yeah, I mean, it's a shame. My husband's got a new love. Ew. It's alright, I'm prettier. Not bitter. He's on a health drive, bless him. He's got a goal weight now. He's going to get skinny for his love. Goal weight. I'll give him a goal weight. 7 pounds, including the owner. Bastard. Anyway, enough said about that man, that's for sure. I actually have also moved on, you'll be pleased to know. I've been on all the apps. Done OkCupid, Tinder, don't do that one. Plenty of Fish, don't do that one. Airbnb. Yeah, that one was great. To be fair, I think the host was surprised. But I gave him a great review. So. Yeah, and I had some success actually, but not at first. I got really quite desperate at first. I thought, I'm going to have to go and find men in like real life, in the wild. Not the Serengeti, that's too far. But like, where do men go in Swansea? So I thought, I know, I'm going to go to college. I know, I'm real smart, right? So I joined a mechanics course, and it was full of women, like in dungarees. That's not a look I can work. So I had to quit. So I went into IT at college, had to just take a course full of geeky women. I was so outclassed. So I joined a micro-penis support group. And I had a lot of fun. It's nice to see you again. Yeah, I mean, I know it's not the size that counts, though, is it, ladies? It's not the size, it's the skill. It is, it's true. I mean, I met this one guy, he was on one of the apps, and he matched with me. That's the lingo, isn't it? They match with you. So we matched, and it was very exciting. And I was chatting with him, and he said to me, "Ava, question, are you groomed?" I said, "Groomed? Not since I was 9. And he said, "No, I mean," I said, "Oh, shaved." get to the stage in our relationship where there was a certain nakedness involved. And trust me, that man did not have any right to tender an opinion. Because when the Y-fronts were removed, Y-fronts! Doesn't he know? It's 2025. God's sake. Anyway, the Y-fronts were removed, and I was then witness to truly the most prolific pubic hair I've ever seen in my life. Seriously, and a teeny tiny Boris. Because it's his Johnson. Seriously, it was like a little mouse in a hedge. And I was like, oh well, let's not judge. You know, maybe he's all right. We'll have to see. Anyway, he took one glance at my admittedly magnificent left breast, and he just came instantly. I know, I'm that good. Yeah, so I like to call him the fast and the furious. I like to give my disastrous dates nicknames, you know, because they deserve them, and he deserves that one. Well, it's not much like Tony. I met Tony, he was very short and very cute and feisty, so I called him Shetland Tony. And yeah, it turns out though he was married. Bastard. Shetland Tony has a mare. So he had to go. This 20p sandwich guy, not a gentleman. Turns out he was a security guard. He told me he was a music producer. Ha, my ass. He was not a music producer. He actually was a security guard at Asda. So when they were going to sell the food that was going to kill people, they let them buy it for 20 pence, and that's what he brought me for on my date. I know. I was so disappointed. So after that, when a guy asked me if I'd like to go to the motorway services in Newport, I said yes. Because compared to 20p sandwich guy, this one was amazing. I know. And I did. I went to Newport Services on the M4 for a date, because he asked me. And he said to me, should we go to Costa? And I was like, yes, that's so much better than sandwiches from Asda that might kill me. Prawn cocktail, 2 days on a date. Anyway, so I did. I went to Costa. And then when we were buying our coffee, they said, would you like to stay in, or are you taking out? And he said, take out. I was like, oh. He said, we'll sit in your car. And I was like, oh. And he said, yeah, we'll sit in your car. And I said, but they have chairs. And he said, no, well, if we go in your car, we can go somewhere. And I said, oh, where do you want to go? And he said, there's a lay-by just up the road. And I said, why do you want to go to the lay-by? And he said, because there's cameras here. I know what the right question is at this point. What am I supposed to ask him? What do you want to do that you can't do in front of cameras, right? Because to be honest, I didn't know this guy well. And I thought, I might get murdered. And if I want to get murdered, I do want to get murdered in front of cameras. You know, I want to leave some sort of legacy. But no, he didn't want to stay there because of the cameras. Now I know that wasn't the question I asked him though. I know that's the right question, it's not what I asked him. Do you want to know what I asked him? I asked him, how do you know there's no cameras at the lay-by? Do you know what he said? Because there's a lot of fly tipping there. I am the only person I've ever met who's been invited, literally, on a first date to a rubbish dump. It was going badly. I'm telling you, it was going so badly that I dated Caravan Murder Guy. He said to me, should we go on an errand before our date? And I was like, okay. And he said, fine, I've got to drop off a battery. And I thought, a battery? Like an artist battery? Watch battery? No, a caravan battery. In his caravan, that is in a caravan scrapyard, that is literally in the dark in Llandarcy. That's a red flag, right? Now there's only one reason I can't take up slalom skiing at an Olympic level, and that's because I cannot spot a red flag. I mean, I've got the sticks down, you know what I mean? Or they're called poles. I don't know, I didn't take it up. But anyway, yeah, and I literally went with him to this caravan in the dark, in a place I don't know. And then when we got there, he said to me, oh, that's not a Welsh accent you've got there. I said, no. And he said, oh, is it a South African accent? I said, it is not, you take that back, you bastard. And then he said, oh, I bet you're a racist. That's okay, I'm a racist too. And I was like, is that a red flag? Anyway, we're chatting a little bit, and then he said, I bet you voted Labour. I said, well, I'm not telling you I voted. He said, but it wasn't Conservative. I said, no. He said, I voted Conservative. I was like, there it is! The red flag! I finally spotted it. Anyway, he did try to go to me, but as you can see, he did not succeed. Because there were no cameras. So I wasn't going to do that. So yeah, as you can see, there were some disasters. I mean, there was also Farty Legs Guy. Now, Farty Legs Guy, he said to me, do you mind dating a disabled man? And I was a one-crutch kind of girl at the time, and I said, no, that's fine. And he said, great. And then he said, shall I come pick you up? And I said, all right. And then I told him exactly where I lived, because I'm an idiot, right? And he said, okay, because the thing is that I've lost my legs. And I said, oh, careless. Anyway, some people have no sense of humour. But he did turn up to fetch me in his car. He drove the car all the disabled people have to drive. You know the one, looks like a toaster. And it was kind of lopsided, and I thought, oh, that is not a good sign in a car. And I opened the door, and it was full of the largest human being I've ever seen in my life. He was really, really obese. I looked at this in horror for a second, and I thought, it's only a half an hour since this man phoned me and said, I think you're going to be disappointed when you meet me. And I was like, disappointed? It's not the word I would have chosen. And then he said to me, come on, get in the car. And I was like, how? So I had to shove aside some of his internal organs. So I put my seatbelt on, we start to drive. And I thought at this moment I could not get any more grossed out. And I was thinking in my head, don't be a bitch, don't be a bitch. I'd only just said to him, it's what inside that counts. But I didn't think I'd have to look so deep inside, you know. And I know none of you are so indelicate as to mention it, but I'm not exactly a tiny lady myself. So I was looking at this thinking, oh no, don't be a bitch, don't be a bitch, don't be a bitch, right? And then he was nice to me, and he was chatting, and I was thinking, oh my God, it's terrible. And he said to me, do you mind if we go to a pub where I normally eat, because I don't like unfamiliar food? And I was like, so it wasn't strangers you ate? Just your entire family. So we went to the pub, and he said to me, if I eat unfamiliar food, it does terrible things to my bowels. And I was like, that is not an image I want in my mind. And we got to the pub, and he said to me, could you help me out, please? And I was like, dude, like I face my own challenges in this regard. But I thought, no, don't be a bitch, I'll help him out. So I went over to his side, and I opened his door, and some of him flowed out, so that helped. I pulled him to his feet. And now look, I know, you don't have to tell me, I know I'm going to hell for this, I know, right? I pulled him out, and he stood up, and the first thing he did was look down at me from his quite impressive height. And he said to me, when they gave me new legs, I asked them for a couple of extra inches. And I was like, how could you tell? I don't think you've seen it in years. I don't. How would you find it? Like, it's not like they gave him a map. I know, don't be a bitch, right? Anyway, so we started to walk, and this is the worst thing, you see, because I know not even disabled people are allowed to laugh at disabled people. As we're walking, every time his feet hit the ground, they let out this fart noise. I know, I was trying so hard not to laugh. But anyway, we got into this pub, and he opened the door, and then the light shone on his face. And you know what? Turns out I can get past no legs. I can even get past hugely obese. Do you know what I can't get past? He had 3 teeth. He's like, oh, hey, but you're lovely. Give me a kiss. I said to him, look, this is not going to work out. He goes, no. I said, no, I'm really sorry. And he said, why? And I said, because we can never walk on the beach. And he said, I can walk on the beach. I said, no, we can never walk on the beach. And he said, why? I said, because if we do, people will keep trying to throw us back in the waves or calling Greenpeace on us. Anyway, so he had to go. And he wasn't happy, bless him. I know, it's harsh, isn't it? And all of this led me to accept a date from the worst, most boring man I've ever met in my life. We call him Comrade Guy. Now, Comrade Guy, he was so boring. He was so boring. He took me out on a date to Sunday lunch, because he thinks that's how old I am. And we went to this little place, and it was lovely, and he manfully ate his way through everything on the table. I was so bored, I drank my way through everything on the table, with a totally predictable result, that by 3 p.m. on a Sunday afternoon, I was drunk. Helpless. And he said to me, Ava, I think you need coffee. And I went, oh, okay. Turns out, drunk me is really compliant. Not an invitation. So, anyway, he said, shall we go to your house for coffee? And I went, okay. So, we went to my house. I again told him exactly where I live, because that's what I do. And then, when we got to my house, I went in to my kitchen, and I put the kettle on, and he went in my living room, and he stood there, and when I went through, he said to me, where have you been? I said, I went to put the kettle on. And he said, why? I was like, because you wanted coffee. Well, at this point, let me tell you, it was a moment in my education. Ladies, if a man asks you for coffee and a catch, it's like Netflix and chill. Like they're not expecting to watch the film, they're not expecting to drink the coffee. I didn't know that, right? But then I learned it on this night. So there we go. Then he kissed me. And I thought, oh, that's less boring. And then he started to undo his belt. And I was like, oh, that's what we're doing. Okay. Anyway, and he pushed me down on my sofa, and I like my sofa, so I was like, oh, that's okay. And then he took out his little Boris, because it's his Johnson. Tiny little Boris. And with one look at my admittedly magnificent left breast, he instantly came in his hand. I know, I'm still that good. Anyway, I thought at this point he'd go to a bathroom, because that's what you'd do, wouldn't you? Wouldn't you just go to a bathroom? Not him. He looks around my nice living room with my nice coffee table with the nice packet of tissues on it. You know the ones with the flowers on? Yeah. Yeah. He takes a handful of tissues, right? He sort of wipes his hand a little bit. Boris was put away slimy. And then he dropped his tissues on my coffee table. He just dropped them on my coffee table. I was like, and then he sat down on my sofa and he went to sleep. And then the kettle clicked off. So, you know, I was like, now I don't know what to do. I don't have a biohazard suit. I don't. And I don't know what to, like, where's the etiquette? There's nothing on the help pages of Tinder to help you with this. I know, I looked. I don't know is there a Hallmark card? Thank you for your coming, Dick Rag. I just wish you would have taken it. No, none of that. Like, he slept for 20 minutes, then he opened his eyes, he got up, he went, I'm off, babe, and fecked off. Leaving his cum rag. Which is why I call him cum rag guy. I wasn't, as you probably thought I was, trying to murder some of the Welsh language, because I have utter respect for that. But not this. Right, it was not, that kept me off Tinder for 2 whole weeks. You know, it was disgusting. So I have decided that I'm going to maybe look in different places for company. Look within myself. You know, I went to the doctor and I said, I've got some symptoms, and he said, well, you are getting on a bit. I was like, that's very rude. And he said, well, you know what, Ava, why don't you take a Barbie? Because you're menopausal. I was like, listen, sunshine, just because my hoo-ha is drier than my sense of humour right now. And he's like, yeah, exactly. You see, you could take up art, or, you know. I thought, all right, I'll take up writing. So I decided I was going to write a book on dry vaginal skin. And I did. And the publisher wouldn't accept it, because they said, I should have used paper. So I hope that gives you nightmares. Good night, everybody.